Hi everyone and welcome to episode 4 of my HTML5 and CSS3 Noob to Pro tutorial series. In this episode we're going to start from scratch and wipe the slate clean, and we're going to build a fully functioning website. So we need to break down exactly what makes up a website. The main areas that we're going to focus on is the header, the navigation. We're going to have a main content area and a footer. So that should give us enough to go on. So if we come over to our Cloud9 or any editor, you could be using anything, and open up an index.html file. So we'll start from scratch. So as we've already gone over, we're going to need the doc type, so let's do that. Doc type HTML, and we're going to have our HTML tags. There we go, and our head tags as per usual, and our body tags. Just race through this because I've already covered this. Give it a quick title. My awesome web page. There we go. And just save that there. Now, the first thing you're going to find on most websites these days is going to be the navigation. It used to be you would normally get a header first, but most of the websites these days seem to have the navigation at the top, so we'll do that as well. So we're just going to use another HTML5 tag for this. It's going to be the nav tag, and what we're going to use for the navigation is going to be an unordered list. And we discussed that in, I think it was the last episode. And it's just basically a bullet pointed list, but obviously a navigation is going to be horizontal and it's not going to have bullet points. So we'll discuss how to style that to make it look the part. So let's put in an unordered list, and in our list item there, it's going to be a link. We're not going to link it to anywhere just yet, but we'll add them in anyway just so we can style it. And we're going to say page 1, call it whatever you want I suppose, but I'm just going to call mine page 1, 2, 3, let's give it 4 pages. Just 2, 3 and 4. Right, so if we just save this and take a look at see what's actually output there. So there we go. Obviously that's not a very nice looking navigation so far. So what we're going to do is we're going to style it. So we'll add our style tags just like before, and we're going to target nav, and we're going to let's style the nav background first. One thing you'll notice here is I didn't put a dot before this. So if that was to be a class, I would have put a dot there. But we're not actually targeting a class. We're targeting the raw element. So if you were to be targeting this UL or the body tag or even just this li here, it'd just be li like that rather than with a dot. So keep that in mind. And what we're going to do is we're going to add a background. Hashtag 555. And another thing you'll notice here is I've only put in 3 characters instead of 6. And that's just because if it's going to be, you could put in another 3 there, 55555, all the way through. But if they're all going to be the same like that, then what you can do is just put in 3 characters, and it'll give you the same color. So it's another little trick for you there. Let's just see how that looks so far. Yeah, not very nice still. So here's another new thing you're going to come across is if we just do nav ul. So that's what that's saying is target all the U elements that happen to be inside a nav element. But if this was out here, any like that, then any U element on the page is going to get targeted. But we don't want that. We just want to target the navigation one. So yeah, you just do it like that. And what we're going to do is do list dash style none, and that takes away the bullet points. And then next up, nav ul li, so same concept there, any li that's in the ul element and any u element that's in nav, so just a hierarchy there. And we're going to set it to inline block. So display inline dash block. So we'll look at that. Yep, there we go. So we're starting to get somewhere now. colors aren't very nice on the A tags there, so nav, ul, li, and then a. I mean, what you could do, if you didn't want to go right through the chain there, you could do nav a, so that would say any a tag that's inside the nav, but we're just going to do it like this for now. So what we're going to do here, we're going to make the color white. Again, we're using a syntax where we've only got 3 characters. And we'll make it bold, so font-weight bold, and we'll change the font-family to Tahoma. You can choose whatever font you want. Oh, not Thomas. Tahoma. Right, so let's take a look at it and see what that's produced then. So we have... So we're starting to get somewhere now. Still doesn't look too great. Let's take off the text decoration dash decoration. I've spelt decoration wrong. There we go. That's another handy thing about having a proper text editor instead of using something like Notepad, is it can tell you if something's wrong just by the colour. And we'll add some padding as well, so we'll add padding to the li element here. There we go. So that's starting to take shape now. One thing you'll notice is we've got some padding around the edge here, and that's because the page applies a universal style, universal padding. So I think there's padding to, I think maybe the body element or something. And what you usually do when you start a web page is you are going to override the global styles. So that's what that star represents there. And we're just going to say margin 0, padding 0. One thing to note that I'm doing here is I'm not setting it to pixels or anything like that, it's just setting it to a 0 value. So you don't need to specify if it's a percentage or pixels or EMs or REMs or whatever. So let's refresh that. There we go. Now normally you're not going to have your page full width like this. You're going to have it constrained. Just get rid of this for now. You're going to have it constrained to a certain width, and we're going to use a container for that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave the background full width, because that's kind of a nice look that everyone's going for these days, so, you know, following trends and all. So what we're going to do is inside the nav element, because that's what contains the background, we're going to put in div class container. We'll just take this and stick it inside here, indent that properly. There we go, looks nice. And I'm just going to stick the container here. So you can see I'm using the dot again because that's a class, container class. And we're going to say width 1000 pixels. You can set it to higher or lower if you like, but I'm going to choose 1000 pixels. And we're going to add margin auto. So this is a little bit of magic that's going on here. What margin auto will do is tell it to essentially center. So there's going to be space on either side of here. I'll give you an example of that. So if we set the UL here to background, it's the wrong symbol. Whereas my keyboard's changed to the wrong language, that's good. There we go, right. Right, so you can see that this is the block that's inside the container, and we've got margins on each side. So margin auto basically just says to center this whole block. So we'll just remove that styling there because we don't need that. Right, so there we go. We've got our container. So we can move on to the header now because we've got our navigation done. We can move on. So because this container is inside these tags here, we're going to have to create a new one outside of these tags. So div class container, and we're going to cover something else that's new here. Last time when we put an image in, we referred to an external resource. We used a placeholder image on an external URL, but what we want to do is we want to have our images hosted locally. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a new folder here. I'm going to call it img. Call it whatever you want, I suppose, but I'm going to call mine img. And well, I'll bring this over here so you can see what I'm doing. I've downloaded a banner here, just a JPEG file, so I'm going to copy that across, stick it in my folder there. And the way we refer to this is just if we just create an image tag, src. Now, last time we put in an external URL, what we're just going to do here is we're going to refer to it locally. So we just do image / banner.jpg. You could put in the full URL, including the this part here, but we're not going to do that for now. So this is just easier to do and it's easier to read. And we're going to cover something else that's new as well. We're going to add an alt and title tag. So alt. Now what an alt tag is, it's just if the image doesn't load, then it's going to display some text, and it's also useful for like screen readers and things like that. In terms of SEO and with Google, they prefer you to have one. It kind of tells Google what's going on, what the image is. So we'll just give it a title, just say it's a header image. You would normally want to be a little bit more descriptive. And the title isn't required. Well, I suppose none of them are required, but it's suggested that you have an alt tag. A title is a little bit less important, but what a title will do is if you hover the image, you can see it gives some text there. So that's what the title does. Right, so we can see we've got a bit of a problem here. This image has gone off to full width. So what we can do is actually set a width for that. So let's give this a class so we can target it. Let's call it header image. And header-ing. And we're going to say width 100%. And what that's going to do is going to set it to 100% width of the container that's inside. That container is 1000 pixels, so the image is going to be 1000 pixels wide. That's pretty self-explanatory, so there we go. We'll just keep it simple and just set the header to an image for now. So next up we're going to have the main content area. We don't need to create a new container for this, because we can just come into here. So what we're going to do is say div class equals main-content. Main-content, that's what I get for using different keyboards, keep hitting the wrong key there. And it's going to be sitting next to the sidebar, so we'll put the sidebar in as well. I'm doing it again. Sidebar, there we go. Let's give these names just so we can see what's going on. There we go. So if we have a look at that just now, there we go. Sidebar is right below main content where it shouldn't be. So we're going to fix that. It's main-content. We're going to say width. Let's give it 70% width. And it's going to be an inline block. We've covered that already. Nope. Display inline block. And then we're going to do the same for the sidebar. Display inline block. And it hasn't worked. And you're going to wonder why it hasn't worked. And the reason it hasn't worked is because if you've got two inline blocks next to each other, and it makes up to 100% width, bang on 100%, then it's going to put it to a new line. So if I was to set that to 29%, this is just an annoying little oddity of CSS, then that's going to fit. However, we don't want it set it to 29%, so the way we fix this is by using a float. Let's just set the float on both of these. And what the float does is essentially just tell it to float to the left of the container. So yeah, you can use it. I'm not going to go into too much detail on floats just yet because they are a bit of a pain in the ass to understand. But just trust me that you need to float that, and that'll fix that issue. The other way we could have done this is by using the new CSS grid that's out. However, that's starting to get a little bit complicated. So what we're going to do is we're just going to use the old school method for now, and in a later series we'll probably rebuild this page. I'm not sure how we're going to do that yet, but we'll cover some more advanced topics and go into more depth in some of the HTML5 stuff that's out. So let's just continue on with this for now. It's useful information that you'll need to know anyway. So right, so let's flesh out our content area a little bit then. So what we can do is we can add a header. Again, that's nothing new to you guys. If you've been following along, that is my awesome web page. Just see how that looks. There we go. Now what we're going to do is add a style to that, because again, it's not a very nice font really. So we're just going to come up to the top here. It doesn't really matter where you put it. I just like to have these sort of universal styles at the top of my file. What we're going to do is we're going to chain these so that we can apply this to multiple elements. So you just do that by adding a comma. So you can apply the same styles to multiple elements. H5, I forgot H4, H5 and H6. Then we can do P and A. I think that should cover most of it. If not, we can come back and add to this. So font-family Tahoma. And what we can do actually is just remove that from there, because that's now set up here. So that's just basically said apply that to all of these elements rather than doing a new style for each of them. So let's save that and have a look. There we go. This still hasn't changed because it isn't inside any of those elements, but that's fine, we're going to change that anyway. So right, let's add some boxes. So div class, doing it again, just call it box for now. Just move this down, it looks nicer that way. I'll add an image. Do it again. Let's just get a placeholder image just for quickness. I'll just take this one again. Wrong tab. There we go. We'll just give it an alt attribute, we won't give it a title. Box image, and then we'll say H2 for a subtitle, box title 1, and we'll give it some text. Say lorem, nope. There we go, we don't know it to be that quite so long though, so let's just remove some of this. I really need to turn on text wrapping. There we go. That'll do. Right. So let's just save that for now. Let's see what that looks like. There we go. Right, so what we want to do is we're going to put 3 boxes side by side. In fact, we're going to put 6 boxes in, just so you can see how this works. So we'll just come up here, box, say width. Now if we want to do 3 boxes, that'll be a percentage of 33.33. However, we want to have a little bit of space between these boxes, so we're going to say a 30% width and then a margin of 33.33%, so that makes up to 33.33% for the total width. So there we go. The image still hasn't moved in, so we'll need to do that. Width 100% because it likes to break outside until you tell it not to. There we go. Right, and one thing you might be questioning is what's the difference between a margin and padding? And essentially, what it is the padding will apply to the inside of the div. So if you've got a box and you pad it, it's going to apply to the inside and it's going to pad in the way. If you had a margin, it's going to push out the way from the outside. You'll get used to that as we go along. I'll give you a better example later on, but that's the basics of it. So what we're going to do is we're just going to repeat this box 6 times. 3, 4, 5, 6. And just for the sake of keeping this neat, I'm going to just push this down a little bit. There we go. And there we go. That hasn't worked because we haven't made it an inline block and floated it to the left. So we're going to do display inline dash block and then float left. And it still hasn't worked. Oh, hello. It's not 33.33%, it's 3.33%. There we go. And that now fits in there perfectly. So there we go. So remember, we're going to want to add a little bit of a margin to the bottom here. Let's do that. Margin dash bottom 15 pixels. There we go. That looks a bit better. Add a little bit of space here as well. So what is that? That's the H1 tag, isn't it? There we go. Just add that here. H1 margin dash bottom. Just give it another 15 pixels. There we go. So there we go. That's how you put some boxes in there. Again, you could have used the CSS grid for this, which is still very new, but we'll cover that later on. Right, so what we're going to do next is we're going to add some content to the sidebar. We'll just add another navigation menu, so it'll be a vertical navigation menu this time. So sidebar, do an H2 title, and UL for menu, li, and just another link. Link 1. Let's just copy this all the way down here. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Have a look and see what that's done. There we go, it's pretty nasty looking. So what we will do is we'll make this look a little bit prettier. So sidebar, and what have we got? Let's just give this a background. And we'll give it a lighter background, let's say EE. Let's see what that looks like. There we go. Still pretty nasty looking. So we'll do sidebar UL and we'll give it a list style of none. There we go. So right, we're going to want to pad this in a little bit. So padding, say 15 pixels again. Oh, and there we go. We've got another issue there. And this is down to the box size and attribute. So if you add the padding by default, what it's going to do is it's going to pad in the way, but it's going to extend the width. So we need to set the box size and attribute. I'm not going to get into too much detail on what exactly this is just yet, but if we just set box dash sizing to border dash box. Some people like to set this as a default and here just site wide. We're not going to do that right now, but you can do that. So there we go. So what that does is it tells it to pad in the way instead of without increasing the width of the box, or indeed the height as well. So there we go. That's sorted that. Right. So what else we're going to do is we're going to make this text look a little bit better. So let's come into here and say sidebar ULLIA because it's inside all of those elements. Give it a nicer color. We'll just make it black for now. Let's see what that does. There we go. And we'll also maybe want to add a hover class to this, just so we can change the color on hover. So this is something else that's new to you. And then hover. So that's how you target hover. So a hover on hover of this A element. Here we're going to say color. Let's change it to blue, shall we? So say 4444, and then the blue will be FF. So that's, yeah, there we go. So if we hover them, we get a blue color. Right, that should do for the sidebar. You just keep it pretty simple for there. Right, so if we add the footer in now. In fact, what we'll do is we'll use the HTML5 version for this. So there we go. You could use a div tag and set a class of footer. This is another new HTML5 attribute. You could have used some more HTML5 elements here. However, I don't want to make things too complicated for you starting off, so I'm just going to drip feed these in as we go along, and we'll cover some of that in a more advanced tutorial. At the moment, we just want to try and focus on some of the basic stylings that you can do. But we'll use footer here, just like we did with the nav, because that one's kind of self-explanatory. So what are we going to do in a footer? We're going to have, you know what we're going to do? We're going to take this outside of the container. We'll make it a little bit like the header. Just so you know, that's the ending div for that container up here. So that's why it's in line there. So we want to come outside of that, and we're going to create a footer outside. And that way we can have a full width background, and then we'll just have some text in here for the copyright. Right, so what we're going to do is we're going to say my awesome website, and here's another new thing here. We're going to have the copyright symbol, so and copy, and that's how you put in symbols in HTML. So you would do that for currencies, things like that. So if you want to put the pound sign and pound, would give you pounds. I'm not quite sure what the one for dollars is, but if you Google HTML symbols, then you'll get that coming up, and it'll tell you what to use for the symbol you want. So let's do 2017. Take a look at what this has done, and it's away up here. Now the reason it's away up here is because of the way floats work. So what we need to do is apply a clear fix. And basically what that is that both of these elements here are floated to the left, and anything that isn't floated is going to react badly to that. It's just going to try and wrap around it. So what we need to do is tell it to clear both, and that says clear both left and right floated elements. So let's give that a shot. So right after the last floated element, which is this sidebar here. So if we have a look up here, see that we'll see that that's not floated, and I've just realised that we have two sidebar styles here. So let's just combine them. There we go. Right, so you can see that that's floated left, and so is the main content here. So right after the sidebar, just here, we're going to add div class clear fix, just an empty div, and then we'll come up here. In fact, we'll add this to the top since it's a global style. Stick it under container. Clear fix. We're going to say clear both, and that just says, you know, if there's a left and right floated element, just go below it. So if we refresh now, there we go. We'll see we've got that here. We want that text inside a container, so let's add another container then. There we go. Just copy this inside there. Save that. There we go. And let's make this look a little bit nicer. So I've got the footer element there. Let's say footer background. Just make it the same as the header. 555. And we'll get some padding as well. So let's say 15 pixels. And let's make the text white as well. So footer P, color white. There we go. So we've got our footer in now. And again, this is inside the container, and because the container is inside the footer, which has the background on it, this is going to go full width. So there's your first web page. Right, so in the next episode what we're going to do is we're going to try and make this a little bit more responsive, because if you were to look at this in a mobile, for example, or a tablet, it's not going to look very good. So let's just have a look and see what that looks like at the moment. Yeah, so that's not going to go down well with anyone. You know, sideways scrolling. It's a bit old school, and it's just broken basically. It's just not going to work. You get these features in Chrome, by the way, where you can set it to responsive mode. I actually usually use Chrome. I'm just using this Firefox here, so I've got a clean browser for you guys. But yeah, you get the same functionality in Chrome. So you can stretch this out here and see what it looks like on another device. Or yeah, you can select the device from here and it'll give you accurate dimensions. So yeah, we'll take a look at trying to make this look a bit better. And yeah, thanks for watching, guys. And just before I go, I'd like to take a second to thank my sponsor, a2hosting.com. I actually use them for my own VPS hosting, and the reason I like to use them is just because they allow you to scale things like the disk and the RAM independently, unlike some of the competitors. And their support is just fantastic as well. So if you're in need for a decent host, then follow the link in the description. And thank you for watching.